Or they're doing things that scare you. I mean, I think that's a great place to start. There's a lot of lessons learned on the other side of adversity, and everybody says you can't grow in your comfort zone, and however cliche it may sound, like it is true, right? But we need to kind of jump ship and figure out whether we sink or swim. And I think what better way of doing that than buying a one-way plane ticket?
Yes, right. Buying a one-way plane ticket, man, that sounds great. Yeah, that definitely was not me. When and Yeah, I had a vision when I was in my 20s that I think inherently I knew I was kind of scared of stuff, and that I wanted to evade it. I don't want to face it. And so my vision was, I want to save enough money. I'm just going to go to Australia and never be seen again in the United States. And I just didn't do it, you know. And then life goes by, and you kind of click off boxes that society says are important, and yet you still feel unfulfilled. And hey, that puts us on a mission. And that I just had this conversation with somebody else today, which is, I think we go through our experiences, especially early life, so we can feel some pain, and that same pain that we just want to evade helps launch us into our calling and what we do. And that is called a magnificent plan. Seems painful as us humans. However, I'm pretty sure that is the way it works.
Hmm. Do you think it launches us all, or do you think there are some timid individuals that kind of stick in their comfort zone, so to speak, or the ones that they know, the places that they know?
Yeah, I think there are people who get stuck, and I am not here to criticize them at all. I feel empathy for them. I am stuck in my own ways in some cases too, and so it's humbling being an earthling here at the Earth School. And I do believe that we are here to learn, just like it is a school. And yet, it doesn't take the sting out of going through pain. I think intellectually, I do believe that, my spiritual beliefs are that we come here as spirits. We want to come here to learn stuff. We want to experience things. And so, what we call a problem or pain or whatever it may be as a human, our soul wanted to experience. And yet, with that belief, I still must have some programming inside of me that says, nah, you can't believe that. Because if I really believed that, I would walk through the day with no problems in the world. Because this is a earth experience, and I am an eternal soul, and hey, everything is game. But I think that's the fun of it. I think it was yeah, it's Alan Watts. Oh, if anybody hasn't listened to Alan Watts recordings, oh, just take some time and go to YouTube and listen to Alan Watts. He is eloquent and funny, and I love that rasp coming from probably smoking 5 packs a day. And he just goes into this game. And as he says, the greatest game in the universe is hide and seek. He says we are God, we are a piece of spirit, come to earth, and then we hide from that. And our job is to, again, seek it out so that we can reconnect. And I love that. I think it is true. And I think if we pay attention, I'm starting to pay attention in life now, is that we can see messages from unseen friends, spirit, whatever we want to call it. It's okay. And it's hard to define. I mean, I don't even think we should define it. And yeah, the whole pain thing and the fear and all that. Oh man, it's I laugh at it because it is so intense as a human. Here we are.
Mm.
And if we're lucky, I think we do recognize that we got launched into something. We can grab it, and we can really live with happiness because we are engaged in something that's useful to other people and ourselves. And there are some people, as you say, who get stuck, and maybe they never had anybody out there to advocate for them, to pull them aside, be a buddy, and just say, hey, there's more out here for you. And I'm fortunate that somehow I was guided into that, and now I get to help other people.
Hmm. What guided you into it?
Good question. ah, I'll give you two answers. One is the earthly view of that would be I wanted to be the best sport coach I could, and this was for youth sport. My kids, and especially my daughter at that time was 9, and she was one of those girls who was going to play with the boys in Little League. And I guess about the same time, my son was also going to be playing, the little version of baseball called T-ball. And this is about 2008, and I was working in the shopping center industry at that time, corporate stuff. And 2008, if you remember, was about the time we were about to all go into meltdown. There was a
Yeah.
financial crisis, and so I had a lot of time on my hands. There wasn't a whole lot of commercial activity, and I dove in. And I learned about cool things out there that can really help people play their best in sport. And it came out of the world of psychology, leading edge psychology, though, not mainstream stuff. Nevertheless, clinically studied. And I just fell in love with it. And that really got me into things. Now, what guided me there? So one could say I wanted to be the best coach. Deeper than that, you know, maybe I got a nudge from on high that said, hey, we care about you, Scott, and your purpose here is going to be revealed if you just step forward a little bit. And so for me, what that looked like was sitting at my desk, looking at my computer, seeing things that I just couldn't believe that they were true. They were these leading edge methods, I keep calling them, but they looked weird. I never saw anything like these before. And I came from a world of straight-laced, science-based people. My dad has a PhD in physics. My mother's a biologist, worked at NIH. And I was raised in that environment of science means it can be measured and repeated. And some of the things that are in the world of psychology and metaphysics cannot be repeated sometimes. We're dealing with things that are different. So I'm open to the notion that whatever unseen friends I have nudged me into that. So I got two answers for you, which represents me pretty well. I got my strong left brain stuff that still is active, and I have my right brain that I'm letting loose more and more.
I think that's what we need to become, right? Some sort of balance between the two. Like
Yeah,
some situations, some circumstances need us to be a little bit more definitive and be like, okay, well, this could potentially be the answer, and let's get it done. And then other times we need to be pulled back a little bit and think, well, it might not be true. What we think is true is only a theory, and it's only what we believe to be true right now, right? Like tomorrow, it could be disproven. We could disprove it. Somebody else could disprove it. And we need to, I think, having as much as you can, an unbiased view. We're always going to be biased, right? We're always going to
yeah,
sit one side, closer to one side than the other, right? It's not going to be a pendulum completely centralized. But I think being as unbiased as we can and question ourselves and thought processes and trying to get into the weeds of where does that thought come from? Where does that feeling come from? Why do I believe that? I think that's a really healthy thing to ask yourself.
oh, I think it's great. Yes, Alex, thank you. I know we would connect because you just stumbled on, or stumbled, you just said something that is profound, which is how come we're not curious about things?
Mm-hmm.
How come we like to jump to conclusions? We like to go quickly from, oh, he just said something, boom, that's either right or wrong. And I think it's an issue of safety, right? If we and energy usage too, we'll call it. If we have to examine everything, that's a lot of energy, right? I mean, this is why in the world of brands, a brand exists as a shortcut for humans. We just simply start to accept it. We think, oh, that brand represents something, and we don't have to examine it all the time. And it becomes a trusted brand. And that's why Madison Avenue and others spend billions of dollars trying to come up with brands to help us and help themselves, really, but it affects us in a profound way because we can short path that energy usage and maybe use it for something else. Now it can be used for nefarious reasons too, right? We can use branding to guide us and messaging to guide people, and oh, that's a whole nother topic for sure. And then I don't know. I lost track of my thoughts on that one, but that's okay.
Oh, good, bro. Things happen, I do it all the
Yeah,
time. I'm
exactly.
blonde. Blonde, blue collar that somehow stumbled into this adult PE thing. And it's like, okay, let's try and teach people a little bit of fitness. But I think,
Adult PE. Yeah, man. Well, that's where we connect too. I really liked your podcast, and I mentioned to you you would have interviewed somebody in my world, and you're connecting the really the non-physical with the physical.
thank you, bro. I appreciate that a
That's a
lot.
beautiful thing because we are not just physical and we're not just non-physical, and that's the silo is what people love to do in society. We
Mm,
even call it, it's like mental health. What is that? No,
mm,
it's health.
mm.
It's just being a human. All aspects intertwined. And so we're starting to get back to that. And certainly the ancients knew that, the indigenous peoples knew that. It's just us modern, advanced humans of society today that have separated it all.
That's the question. Are we advanced? In
No,
in some areas, yes. In many areas, I would argue no as well. Like
that's
we've
right.
become reliant on one pillar, and we've built that pillar as high as we can, and we've forgotten about the other pillars that hold up our
Hmm.
house. And I think be curious is those two
Oh,
beautiful
that's
words
it.
that you
Being
said.
curious. Yes, being curious. That's it. Thank you for getting me back to where we were. Yeah, be
It's
curious. It's like, if I can interject on that,
oh,
as a sport coach, my audience, I have a podcast, folks. It's called The Spirit of Coaching, and it's fledgling. I think we're on episode 8.
mm,
And, one of the things I do say to coaches who listen is, hey, instead of judging your player, be curious. Why are they behaving like that? I know that you want to give them a kick in the rear end. Be curious and maybe even ask them, and those simple kinds of acts go a long way, and they can keep us out of trauma, and they can resolve trauma maybe. They certainly doesn't hurt, and it requires a different mindset, and it requires probably that coach to do their own personal growth work, which, hey, not everybody wants to do. And so it's an ongoing conversation.
yeah, that 5 word beginning with C and ending in Och, right? It is one privilege, but it is a multifaceted job. And I think if we come in as a solidified person of this is who I am, I'm not going to fucking change. You guys got to change to me. I think we we discard so many people, especially if we start working with youth, right? We discard so many to fringes, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, this type of person will succeed through under your wing, I should say. Like, well, what are we here for? We're here to help people. There might be some pro athletes in there, but there's going to be a lot of people in there. And we need to mold and meander on down the frigging riverbed for these people. So we have to change. And I think
Yeah,
asking them why, the law of 5 whys, right? Ask somebody why 5 times, you get to the real answer. You get to
yeah,
the actual core. Like we need to be tuned in with the energy of the room. Like this week. I mean, what day are we? We're Thursday today. So turn Tuesday into Wednesday. So Tuesday night we had a full moon. Wednesday was a little bit off. But the 2 days before the full moon, people were off, mate. People came
mm-hmm.
into the gym completely off. And you're like, guys, are you doing all right? Yeah, sure. No, 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 no. Less of the bullshit now. Yeah. Don't lie to me because you're
Right.
not doing all right. Because I see you bloody 6 times a week, and constantly for the past 6 months now. Things are getting a little weird. Is it because of the full moon? What's going on? Blah blah blah. You gotta start unraveling those layers, right? Asking, and it might seem like the hippy dippy, hairy fairy, soft skill type stuff. was like, I would argue coaching is this beautiful amalgamation between hard skills and soft skills. And that little
Yes.
bit of intersection in the middle, that's coaching.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And that's where the great coaches are. They understand people, and they are also keen observers. Hats off to you, Alex, for being one of those observers. I am blessed to be connected to the physical training world also. Um, One of the people that I hang out with is a fellow named Darius Gilbert. Darius is a world-known kettlebell master, and he always talks about, come up with your plan for your client, and as they walk into the gym or the studio, as we call it, watch them, and then be ready to throw that plan out the window. Because of exactly what you just described, is that they could walk in and you're like, their energy's low. And the left brain folks who have more funds, they would do an HRV measurement of somebody and say, oh, today's a low HRV day. Just jump on the treadmill and go home after that. If you're high, okay, man, we're going to push it. We got it. Let's rock. And that is really next level coaching. And, one of my discussions with my buddies in the physical therapy world here is, hey, that is the next level physical therapy too, is that it's very clear that the progress that a client is going to make in getting back to the field or getting back to competition is measurable. In advance. How do we know? Well, because there's been studies that show it's a fear-based model. Those who are afraid of pain will return more slowly. It's really evident. They've done this as a study in Canada. They came up with this. It's on the internet. Anybody can look it up. And so if we can address a client's or an athlete's fear of pain, and that pain, I think, could be emotional as well, although they were referring to physical pain in this, then I think we're going to benefit people more. And that's what I like to do with my clients. I'm not a physical therapist. I work with athletes. And when we can remove whatever subconscious programming is in there that they're usually not aware of, sometimes they are, man, all of a sudden the body gets freed up to play great. And it happens super quickly. Sometimes in that same day, that same moment. Other times it may take a number of weeks. But it's a miracle every time. And I think we're just, again, back to the point of remembering how beautiful and intricate the human system is. It's not just physical. It's non-physical blended in, and we can have subsets coming off of both of those physical and non-physical categories. And it's super cool. And I love hanging out again with the physical people, because it's a rich, wonderful environment, and it's fun to have a body that works and all that stuff, and then to blend it with these fast and clinically proven ways of dealing with emotions that get trapped in the body and slow us down as athletes. And oh man, it's super.
Yeah, our job is being a detective, figuring it out, finding the right clue, and then addressing it with the right thing. Sometimes it is physical. Yeah, cool. But then what's the carry-on effect? What's the ripple? We've just addressed, we got to the maybe the core of the problem. Cool, we're gonna end up fixing this up now. But what was the repercussion from that? Maybe you got hit by a car and then we've fixed you up. Yeah, great. But what's the repercussion of that? And I think a great example of that in a sport realm is concussions, right?
Yeah.
Like, all right, sound. We've done the return to play protocol. We've made sure you were all good. We've treated the symptoms. You've had your 19 days reset and turn around. We've done everything. We've ticked the fucking boxes. Yeah, but if you've got smashed in your head hard enough, you don't want to get hit in your head again. That hurts. That hurts a lot. So now we've got a lot of fear attached to that, right? And then it's addressing the psychology. Maybe there's a little bit of like short-term depression in there because of you've got some bloody trauma to the brain. It's
Yeah.
I find it fascinating. It's like, yeah, okay, we are so obsessed with finding the core, and I think that's correct. We got to find the core, right? We got to find what is the thing that's triggering all these other problems, especially when we bring it into the gym setting or a sport setting, right? Yeah, but what else was messed up? The whole system was kind of shook. It's like an earthquake. Yeah, we found the epicenter, yeah, but we got liquefaction down the road. We're now got to rebuild the ground.
Oh, I love this conversation. Let me jump in if that's okay.
Yeah, of
Boy,
course.
it's hard to, you can't see goosebumps on a podcast, but that's what I have right now because I love, if I have a superpower, it is, I think one of them is connecting dots in somewhat disparate conversations and categories. So I was watching a presentation done by a professor at the University of Maryland here outside of Washington, D.C. And if I'm not mistaken, he made an astounding connection between the ACEs or adverse childhood experiences of an athlete and the rate of concussion. Okay, this is like, it sounds ridiculous, but he's saying, and I want to believe this because I think that there's something to it, is that the more adverse childhood experiences you've had, the greater incident of concussion as an athlete later in life as an adult. And you think, well, how in the world could that be? And at best, it could be correlation and not causation. I don't know. I'm open though. I'm curious, back to our original conversation, as to what's really going on. What's happening in our system that might make it more prevalent, open us up to this concussion experience. I don't know.
I got a devil's advocate point, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's because they put themselves in positions and situations with a higher potential of receiving concussion? So they'll play more physical sports. They will be a
Mm.
little bit fearless. They'll run in with their head, right? Because they've already experienced a little bit of trauma or physical pain or even emotional, mental pain, and they just want to get it out. And now they're putting themselves in situations where, well, I'm kind of rolling the dice on this. Like I could receive a concussion because I'm playing American football or I'm playing rugby
Yeah.
or I'm playing lacrosse or whatever, rather than I'm swimming or
Mm-hmm.
football, which is like a European football, which is very low rate of concussion, unless you're playing in goal, right? Maybe it could be that I'm trying to draw parallels from my own experience and people that I would play with. I played rugby union, right? And a lot of the aggressive kids, unfortunately, me being one of them, um, had gone through some stuff. When you actually have a conversation with them and dig deeper, they've gone through some significant stuff as a younger lad.
I think you're onto something. I think that there is something in there, likely at a subconscious level,
Mm,
and they are attracted to that for reasons.
mm,
We don't know what that is. That is, but that again is like, wow, wow, wow. Think about
mm,
the implications of that, the stuff that we go through as humans early in life. They say 0 to 5 or 0 to 6, our brain waves are like an adult who's been hypnotized. We're really good. They hear, oh, kid's like a sponge. He soaks up information. Well, that's kind of true. It is
yeah.
true. There's no context with it. And so we are apt to um, do whatever we can to survive, and making sense of the information is not important. Our job at that point is to simply survive because we're kind of powerless in society at that point, right? So the socialization process is it gets us there, and it helps us survive and get part of society, and be one of the billions here. However, it really has implications if we don't, we'll call it, reconnect um,
Mm,
with what Alan Watts was talking about.
mm.
I think.
And then well, that's it, right? We can only think, and then let's try and figure it out, and at least push the chess pieces forward, so somebody else can pick up that game and keep playing, and
Yeah.
keep sharing information and figure it out. And you got me not worried, but you got me joining two dots here with the rate of concussion in one individual and then the rate of depression in their later life,
Yeah.
CTE and all
Sure.
that stuff. And then what does it link to antisocial behavior? What does it link to addiction? How does it link to disturbances within the home? and then if they end up having children, what does it then pass on? And it's like, are we discarding people too early and not really treating the core? Finding that epicenter. Well, how do we prevent this? I don't know. Probably prevent people from smashing their face all the time. It's
Well,
probably not wise.
yeah, it's yeah. Well, I think so. I was just having a conversation with somebody who promotes the notion of the ACEs study, adverse childhood experiences. Her name is Cindy Stanford. I think I'm okay to use her name. And we were just talking about the notion of the power of epigenetics
Mm.
on people. And again, it's back to, well, how does this affect our bodies? Let's put it back into the world of the physical, in our training world. Some athlete who comes in and he or she is exhibiting certain physical characteristics. We can try all day long with our correctives and all sorts of stuff and to try to help that athlete if they've experienced some of these adverse childhood experiences, call them traumas, age 0 to 5, and they haven't been addressed. I'm just telling you, I've seen it. It's not. It doesn't have to be just taken on my word. There's plenty of people who are writing about this now. Bessel van der Kolk with "The Body Keeps the Score" is one of the famous books out there now, and lots of them out there explaining that we're going to use. We'll dive into Bruce Lipton for a moment. Dr. Lipton studied stem cells back in the day when nobody else was, and this is back in the '60s. He got into epigenetics, and as he says, energy drives chemistry, drives biology. So the energy of that trauma, the emotions around it, we'll call it, and we'd all put off EMFs. That's energy based on how we feel about a certain situation. We have that energy of trauma, which is, let's call it a certain frequency. That's going to shift the chemistry in our body. The neurochemistry that comes out of our brain and gut is going to be reflective of stress. And then we have cells that are going to get dying off and recreated. And are they going to be created in the chemistry of productivity, we'll call it, or happiness, or is it going to be created in the environment of stress? And there's a huge impact. This is the science of epigenetics. And it is just fascinating. And it's important, I think, in our sport world, in our physical training world, to recognize that, and come up with a solution that will help people. Because I think it's really frustrating when your coach has one tool or one viewpoint and, we bang away. You're not working harder. They're frustrated. They may call you name, you're lazy. You hear this all the time. Coaches label players instead of, again, we're back to, hey, let's be curious. And is there another way out there? Maybe as a coach, maybe I can just ask for help and somebody else in the world will appear and help me to understand what can I really do to help my client at the deepest level, not just worry about their physical metrics. It's cool. Again, you're back to what you said is like, we are sleuths. And we try to figure out in our bag of tools and tricks what we can do to help somebody be prosperous and happy, I think. What do you think?
I agree. I really do agree. I think having one tool is not the way to go about things, right? If we continuously beat the drum, the skin will become taut and eventually break. We need to learn how to develop our skills in other ways. I don't think skills learned are conditional to the environment in which we learn it. I think they are transferable, right? And I think we need to be curious in many, many different aspects and forms under the big umbrella of health and wellness. Go learn from a PT, go learn from a head coach, go learn from a chiropractor, go learn from an osteo, go learn from the fucking yogi that just talks about spirits all the time and just like their eyes are crossed and you're like, this person's crazy. You're like, yeah, but they might be speaking some sense. There might be something in there that we can take away. And then we just bring it into this melting pot and stir it up. And then, I think that's a beautiful example of, was it Darius, the
Yeah.
kettlebell guy?
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful example. We got to do our prep. We got to do our planning, right? And one of my favorite things about coaching is doing the best plan in the world, and somebody comes in and, metaphorically speaking, rips it up in front of your face. And now you've got 45 minutes to figure it out. And you're like, okay, well, I guess we gotta figure this out,
Yeah.
and we just pull from those tools that we've ended up developing and witnessing from different practitioners, and it's like, yeah, now help the individual in front of you. I say it all the time of, we teach the movement, but we coach the individual. The movements don't change. This is a deadlift, this is a squat, this is football, this is hockey, they don't change, but the person does. And so do we. We change day to day. Maybe we're off. Maybe we're having a bad day. Maybe we've got to be the one that apologizes. Maybe we're like, guys, like, I am really irritable today. I've got to give you less words, because if I try and speak, maybe like I trip over my words and I can't, communicate myself effectively. It's like, that's okay. Then just rudder adjust, man. Just rudder adjust. It's not linear. It's not a straight path. It's not meant to be. Those little turns and tricks and here, there, and everywhere they're just lessons. Just uncover that rock, have a little look underneath it. Yeah, learn from it. Yeah, put it back, carry on.
I love that. A couple things you said really resonated. Um, you know, I listened to a lot of stuff. I can't remember the person that said this, but he was talking about the effect that we can have on other people. It was probably at a quantum level, or again, kind of an undefinable using traditional standards level. And he said, if you get into that situation where you're feeling like you're really judging your client, said, step back for a moment and ask the question, who is this person that's judging this client?
Mm.
And they said, at that point, you don't have to get an answer or anything. You have shifted the energy around your dynamic with your client. And he said, just play with it and just continue to question yourself like that over the course of time, and just notice what happens to your clients, because they're picking up your non-physical wavelength, if you will, your radiation of energy. And all this stuff, by the way, is all measured these days, right? People think I'm talking, crazy talk here. No, this is just EEGs, EKGs. That's all it is, And they know that our heart has a huge field compared to the brain. Our heart field goes out at least 3 or 4 feet. And so if you're with your client and they're 3 or 4 feet and you're 3 or 4 feet, you could be 6 feet away from each other, and you're really having your energies bump up against each other. And so it's important for us to realize that as teacher, client, humans, that we can impact other people just by the way we are functioning inside of ourselves.
Mm.
And this is huge, right? I mean, and now it's like, oh, really, Scott? So I just went to PT school. I paid a bunch of money and they didn't teach me any of this stuff. And now you're telling me I got to go learn some more things? I'm like, yeah, that's the fun part about being a coach or a trainer, right? I think at least is, continually learning about new stuff that's going to impact other people. And I just think it's more fun, more fun. And we get to be a little bit of Jedis doing that too.
For sure. For sure. And it's like learning to drive a car. You only truly learn once you pass your test. You got to get out there and get in front of people and mess it up and try again. And, it's like, guys, I don't know how many times I've taken shit classes, man, or just done something. I'm like, that did not work. That really did not work.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, like that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to learn from it. As long as you don't break somebody, and like you're supposed to communicate with them, and just play chess with them, figure it out. You'll be all right.
What has been, let me turn the tables on you here. I'll put my podcast host on for a moment here. Alex, what has been some of the great sources of wow learning that you've experienced?
In person,
Yeah.
every person who walks through the door.
Mm.
I learn way more from them than they do from me. That is for damn sure.
Cool.
Way more. And yeah, people always fascinate the shit out of me, man. Like the stuff that they come out with, I don't know, there are individual stories that are so unique yet so similar to everybody else. Like, because we have the benefit of seeing so many people, we can see the similarities. yet when you look at the individual, you see the uniqueness. There's a lot of lessons in there.
Cool.
Brother, thank you so much. This has been an honor and a privilege, mate.
So much fun, and hope we get to do it again. And if I can return the favor someday, that would be awesome. This has been a great conversation.
Dude, let's do it again sometime. Stay in touch.
You got it, brother. Thanks, Alex.
Man. You have a good day.
You too.
Bye, everybody.